Hello guys, welcome to Fictional Vortex. So in this video, we will see what if Naruto had Aizen's Hogyoku and Zanpakuto powers Naruto x Rangiku x Neliel, Bleach. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1, The Hypnotic Fox. Naruto crouched on a gnarled branch, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool evening air. 3 days of tracking this weird energy signature, and it still made no damn sense. It pulsed like chakra but felt wrong. Foreign. Like nothing he'd encountered during the war. You feel it too, right? He whispered to Kurama. The fox stirred inside him. It's not chakra. Not exactly. But it's powerful. Dangerously so. Yeah, no kidding. Naruto leaped to another tree, following the signature as it grew stronger. 6 months since the war ended, and he should have been enjoying peace. Instead, these strange energy flares had been popping up around the land of fire, keeping him busy when everyone else was rebuilding their lives. The signature spiked suddenly, making his head throb. Whoa! He clutched his temple. It's close. He dropped to the forest floor, moving silently through dense undergrowth until he reached a small clearing. The air itself seemed to warp and shimmer at its center, like heat rising from summer pavement. But it was something else, a tear in reality. Naruto approached cautiously, kunai ready. The rift pulsed, expanding momentarily before contracting with a sound like glass cracking. Something tumbled through, landing in the soft earth with a dull thud. 2 objects lay in a shallow crater, a small, glowing orb that seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat and a katana with an ordinary-looking tsuba and green handle. What the hell? Naruto murmured, kneeling beside them. Don't touch them, Kurama warned. They reek of something other. Naruto reached out anyway, fingers hovering above the orb. Yeah, but they came through for a reason. And better me checking them out than some random civilian, right? The moment his fingertips brushed the orb, power surged up his arm like lightning. Visions flashed behind his eyes, a man with slicked-back brown hair and calculating eyes, a world of white sand under an eternal night sky, battles fought with swords that transformed into impossible shapes. Gah! Naruto jerked back, gasping. The orb, the Hogyoku, his mind somehow supplied the name, rolled innocently in the dirt. I told you not to touch it, Kurama growled. Yeah. Naruto shook his head, trying to clear it. Since when do I listen? He picked up the sword next, Kyoka Suigetsu, and immediately felt something resonating within him, like it recognized him. Not as intimidating as the orb, but somehow more insidious. A distant scream tore through the night. Naruto's head snapped up. That came from the eastern outpost. He pocketed both objects and took off, racing through the trees. The night air whipped past him as he pushed harder, faster. More screams echoed, closer now, accompanied by sounds he couldn't identify, not quite animal, not quite human. He burst into the small outpost clearing and froze. 3 Konoha guards lay motionless on the ground. Standing over them was. Naruto didn't have words for it. A massive humanoid creature with a hole through its chest and a white bone mask covering its face. It turned toward him, revealing a maw filled with jagged teeth. What the hell are you? Naruto demanded, already forming a Rasengan. The creature let out an ear-splitting howl and charged. It moved faster than he expected, but Naruto was faster. He dodged the first swipe, ducking under massive claws before driving his Rasengan into the creature's side. The attack connected, spiraling energy tearing into its flesh, but it didn't fall. It screamed in rage, backhanding Naruto with enough force to send him crashing through a tree. Okay, he grunted, pushing himself up. So you're tough. Good to know. The monster, hollow, another word surfaced unbidden, stalked toward him. Naruto formed shadow clones, surrounding the creature. They attacked in unison, a coordinated assault that would have overwhelmed most opponents. The hollow roared, swatting clones like flies. One by one they popped until only Naruto remained. He felt the Hogyoku pulse in his pocket, almost urging him to use it. "Not yet," he muttered. "I've got this." He entered Sage mode, feeling natural energy flow into him. The hollow hesitated, sensing the change. Naruto didn't give it time to adjust. He blurred forward, enhanced speed making him nearly invisible, and landed a devastating kick to the mask. Crack! The bone mask split down the middle, and the hollow dissolved into particles of light. Naruto stood panting, adrenaline still pumping. One of the guards groaned, alive but barely. "Hang on," Naruto said, kneeling beside the injured woman. "I'll get you to a medic." "It ate him," she whispered, eyes wide with horror. "Tanaka. It ate his soul." Naruto's blood ran cold. He'd seen a lot during the war, but this was something entirely new. "Something wrong. Don't talk. Save your strength." He created a shadow clone to carry her while checking the other guards. One dead, one unconscious but stable. The third was physically unharmed but catatonic, eyes open but unseeing. "This is just the beginning," Kurama rumbled ominously. "These creatures, they don't belong in our world." "Yeah, no shit," Naruto muttered, creating more clones to transport the wounded. "Let's get them to the village." Chaos greeted Naruto at Konoha's hospital. 2 more attacks had occurred simultaneously at different locations, one at the village gates, another near the academy. Civilians whispered fearfully about invisible monsters, while shinobi looked grim and confused. "Naruto." Sakura rushed over, medical apron splattered with blood. "Thank God." "What's happening?" "I don't know exactly." He helped transfer the injured guard to a stretcher. "But I fought one. They're called hollows, I think. And they're not from our world." Sakura's brow furrowed. "How do you know that?" Naruto hesitated, then pulled out the Hogyoku. It glowed softly in his palm, pulsing like a tiny heart. "Because I found this. And somehow, it's telling me things." Sakura reached toward it instinctively, then pulled back. "It feels strange. Like it's alive. I think it might be." Naruto pocketed it again. "Where's Kakashi-sensei?" "Emergency council meeting. More reports are coming in from all over the land of fire." Sakura lowered her voice. "Naruto, some people are saying only you can see these creatures clearly. Others just see shadows or nothing at all." Naruto frowned. "That doesn't make sense. Unless it's connected to me," Kurama suggested. "Or to those objects you found." Before Naruto could respond, a new commotion erupted at the hospital entrance. Medics rushed to assist newly arrived victims, more people with the same vacant, soul-stolen expressions. "I need to talk to Kakashi-sensei," Naruto said. "These attacks are getting worse." Sakura nodded, already turning back to her patients. "Be careful, Naruto. If only you can fight these things." "I know. I'll handle it." Outside, Naruto took to the rooftops, heading for the Hokage Tower. Night had fully fallen now, and the village buzzed with nervous energy. Patrols had doubled, shinobi scanning shadows for threats they couldn't fully perceive. He was halfway there when he felt it, spiritual pressure, different from the hollow but just as foreign. He changed direction, following the sensation to a secluded training ground. A woman stood in the center, her back to him. Long strawberry blonde hair cascaded down her back, and she wore a black shihakusho with a pink scarf. Most notably, a katana hung at her waist. "Who are you?" Naruto called, landing silently behind her. She turned, revealing striking blue eyes and features that would have made Jiraiya faint from nosebleed. But the coldness in her expression made it clear she wasn't to be underestimated. Return the Hogyoku, she demanded, hand moving to her sword hilt. It doesn't belong in this world, and neither do I. But I can't leave without it. Naruto tensed. How do you know I have it? Because I can sense it. Her eyes narrowed. And I can sense that it's already begun bonding with you. That's unexpected. Look, I don't know who you are, Rangiku Matsumoto, lieutenant of the 10th Division of the Godi 13. She drew her blade in one fluid motion. And I'm not leaving without the Hogyoku. Too many have died because of that thing. Naruto eyed her stance. She moved like a master swordswoman, confident and deadly. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. And I think we got off on the wrong foot. I don't want this thing either, but right now it's helping me fight those hollow creatures attacking my people. Ranjiku's expression shifted slightly. You've engaged hollows? And survived? Killed one, actually. She looked genuinely surprised. Without a Zanpakuto? Impossible. I used this. Naruto formed a Rasengan, the blue sphere spinning in his palm. We have our own powers here. Rangiku stared at the technique, momentarily distracted. What is that energy? It's not spiritual pressure. It's chakra. Naruto let the Rasengan dissipate. Look, instead of fighting, maybe we should talk. My village is under attack by these hollow things, and you clearly know more about them than I do. Rangiku hesitated, then slowly sheathed her sword. Fine. But understand this, the Hogyoku is extremely dangerous. It nearly destroyed my world once before. Yeah, I'm getting that impression. Naruto felt it pulse again, as if responding to her words. So who's this Aizen guy I keep seeing when I touch it? Ranjiku's face went pale. You've seen Aizen. Brown hair, smug smile, thinks he's God's gift to the universe. She swore under her breath. We need to talk to your leaders. Now. Kakashi listened impassively as Rangiku explained about Soul Society, Hollows, and Aizen's betrayal. The council chamber remained silent throughout, the gravity of her words sinking in. So these Hollows are essentially corrupted souls, Kakashi summarized, and they're entering our world through tears in the dimensional fabric. Yes, Rangiku confirmed. The barriers between worlds were likely weakened during your recent war. Especially if godlike entities were involved, as you mentioned. Kagaya, Naruto said. When we sealed her, it caused ripples through dimensions. Shikamaru leaned forward. And you believe this Hogyoku is what's drawing them here? It's a beacon of immense spiritual energy, Rangiku explained. Hollows are naturally drawn to it. But there's a bigger concern, if Sosuke Aizen's consciousness has somehow survived within the Hogyoku. He could return, Kakashi finished. Exactly. Ranjiku's gaze shifted to Naruto. And he may be trying to use you as his vessel. The room fell silent. Naruto felt all eyes on him. That's not happening, he said firmly. I've already got one entity living inside me, and we've worked out an arrangement. Damn right, Kurama agreed. The Nine Tails. Rangiku murmured. I can sense it now. That's why you could see and fight the hollow. You already have spiritual awareness because of your tenant. Shikamaru sighed. What a drag. Just when we thought we'd have some peace. What about the sword? Naruto asked, pulling out Kyoka Suigetsu. It came through with the Hogyoku. Rangiku tensed visibly. That's Aizen's Zanpakuto. Its ability is complete hypnosis, the most perfect illusion technique in existence. Once you've seen its release, Aizen can control all 5 of your senses completely. So basically the ultimate genjutsu, Shikamaru muttered. A what? Rangiku asked. Illusion technique, Kakashi clarified. We have similar abilities here, though perhaps not as absolute. The fact that both items came through together. Rangiku shook her head. This is worse than I feared. These aren't random incidents. Someone orchestrated this. The meeting continued well into the night. Plans made for village defense and investigation of the dimensional tiers. Rangiku agreed to train Naruto in the basics of Shinigami combat, at least enough to better handle hollows throughout it all. Naruto felt the Hogyoku growing warmer in his pocket, like it was pleased with how events were unfolding. 3 days later, Naruto stood in a secluded training ground with Rangiku, Kyoka Suigetsu in hand. Focus your chakra into the blade, she instructed. A Zanpakuto responds to spiritual pressure, but your chakra seems compatible enough for basic techniques. Naruto concentrated, channeling chakra down his arm and into the sword. It resonated, humming with energy. Good, Rangiku nodded. Now try. A massive spiritual pressure crashed down on them, making even Rangiku gasp. Naruto staggered, suddenly finding it difficult to breathe. What the hell, he wheezed. Minos Grande, Rangiku's face paled. An advanced hollow. But this feels stronger, almost like an Arrancar, a cold voice interrupted. They turned to see a humanoid figure standing atop a nearby boulder. He looked almost human except for the fragment of bone mask covering his left eye and the hollow hole through his stomach. He wore white clothing with black trim and carried a Zanpakuto of his own. Soul Reaper, he addressed Rangiku with contempt. Lord Aizen said you might interfere. Naruto's blood ran cold. Aizen? He's alive. The Arrancar's gaze shifted to him. Not yet. But soon, thanks to you and that fox demon inside you. The Hogyoku has chosen its new master well. Rangiku drew her sword. Stand back, Naruto. This isn't an opponent you can handle yet. Like hell I can't. Naruto stepped forward, Kyoka Suigetsu ready. This is my village to protect. The Arrancar smiled cruelly. Then die protecting it. He vanished, reappearing behind Naruto with blinding speed. Naruto barely blocked the strike, the impact sending shock waves through his arms. He jumped back, creating shadow clones that swarmed the Arrancar. Interesting technique, the Arrancar commented, cutting through clones effortlessly. But mere tricks won't save you. Rangiku flash stepped into the fray. Growl, Hiniko. Her blade dissolved into ash that swirled around the Arrancar in a deadly cloud. The Arrancar scoffed, releasing a pulse of spiritual pressure that dispersed the ash. Is this the best soul society could send? Pathetic. Naruto entered sage mode, feeling his perception and strength sharpen. The Arrancar's eyes widened slightly as Naruto moved, faster than before, landing a solid punch to his jaw. Not so pathetic now, huh? Naruto grinned. The Arrancar touched his bleeding lip. Interesting. You might be worthy of Lord Aizen after all. He raised his sword. Rot, fungal. His transformation was immediate and grotesque. His body swelled, skin turning mottled green as fungal growths erupted across his form. Spores filled the air, making Naruto cough. Don't breathe it in. Rangiku warned, covering her mouth with her scarf. Too late, Naruto felt the spores burning in his lungs. His vision blurred as toxins raced through his system. Even Kurama seemed affected, his healing factor working overtime but struggling against the otherworldly poison. The Arrancar laughed. My spores devour spiritual energy. Your demon can't save you. Naruto fell to one knee, fighting to stay conscious. Through blurred vision, he saw Rangiku engaging the Arrancar, her movements growing sluggish as the spores affected her too. Use it, Kurama urged. The Hogyoku. It's our only chance. Naruto reached into his pocket with trembling fingers, pulling out the glowing orb. It pulsed eagerly in his palm. How? He gasped. Merge your chakra with it. Our chakra. Naruto didn't hesitate. He pushed his and Kurama's chakra into the Hogyoku. It responded instantly, cracking open like an egg to reveal blinding light. Power surged through him, washing away the toxins. The Hogyoku dissolved, absorbing into his chest where it settled beside Kurama's seal. Energy exploded outward in waves of gold and blue. Rangiku and the Arrancar both stopped fighting, staring in shock. Naruto rose slowly, his body transformed. His usual outfit had been replaced by a modified Shinigami Shihakusho, orange accents running through the black fabric. Kurama's chakra cloak shimmered around him, but now incorporated with streams of blue spiritual energy. What is this? The Arrancar backed away. This isn't supposed to happen. Naruto looked at Kyoka Suigetsu in his hand. The sword had changed too, its blade now inscribed with sealing formulas that glowed with chakra. He moved instinctively, faster than he'd ever moved before. One moment he stood 20 feet away, the next his blade pierced the Arrancar's chest. Impossible, the Arrancar gasped. You haven't even released your Zanpakuto. I don't need to. Naruto twisted the blade, infusing it with chakra. Whatever Aizen's planning, tell him to think again. The Arrancar disintegrated, particles scattering in the wind. Naruto turned to Rangiku, who stared at him with a mixture of awe and concern. Naruto, she said carefully. The Hogyoku, it's fused with you. Yeah. He could feel it inside him, nestled beside Kurama's seal, the two powers intertwining. Is that bad? I don't know. Her brow furrowed. This has never happened before. Not like this. Naruto opened his mouth to respond but suddenly felt overwhelming fatigue crash over him. The transformation receded, his clothes returning to normal as he collapsed to his knees. Naruto. Rangiku caught him before he hit the ground. Just, tired, he managed before darkness overtook him. As consciousness slipped away, he heard a voice, not Kurama's, but smoother, more insidious. Sleep well, Naruto Uzumaki. Our journey together is just beginning. Naruto dreamed of white sands under a black sky. A palace rose in the distance, its architecture alien and imposing. And walking beside him, a man in white robes with brown hair and calculating eyes. Do you understand yet? Aizen asked conversationally. Why I chose you? You didn't choose anything, Naruto replied. Your little orb fell through a dimensional tear. Aizen smiled. Nothing happens by accident with the Hogyoku, Naruto. It seeks those with potential beyond their limits. In you, it found something unique. They stopped at the edge of a massive crater. Below, thousands of hollow creatures gathered, looking up at them expectantly. Your world and mine are merging, Aizen continued. The barriers were already weakened by your war. The Hogyoku is simply accelerating the process. And I'm supposed to just let that happen? Naruto challenged. You misunderstand. Aizen turned to face him fully. I'm offering you power beyond imagination. The ability to truly protect everyone you care about. By becoming you. No thanks. Aizen's smile didn't waver. I don't need your body, Naruto. Just your cooperation. Together, we could reshape both worlds into something better. Naruto laughed. I've heard this speech before, from guys a lot scarier than you. For the first time, Aizen's pleasant expression faltered. You have no idea what I'm capable of. Maybe not. Naruto stepped closer, unintimidated. But I know what I'm capable of. And I won't let you use me or the Hogyoku to hurt anyone. The dream landscape trembled, cracks appearing in the white sand. Your consciousness is stronger than I anticipated, Aizen admitted. But this is just our first conversation. We'll have many more. Looking forward to it, Naruto said sarcastically. The dream shattered, reality rushing back in. Naruto woke with a gasp, sitting bolt upright. He was in a hospital room, sunlight streaming through the windows. Rangiku dozed in a chair beside his bed, her head tilted at an uncomfortable angle. Hey, he said hoarsely. She startled awake, hand automatically reaching for her sword before relaxing. You're awake. How do you feel? Like I went 10 rounds with the 10 tails, Naruto groaned, rolling his shoulders. How long was I out? Just overnight. She studied him carefully. The Hogyoku's integration with your chakra system was intense. But your friend Sakura says you're physically fine. Naruto touched his stomach where the seal resided. And Kurama? I'm here, the fox answered. But we have company now. The Hogyoku has made itself at home. Yeah, and its previous owner paid me a visit in my dreams, Naruto told Rangiku. Aizen. He claims our worlds are merging. Ranjiku's face darkened. That would explain the increasing number of hollows. And why I haven't been pulled back to Soul Society yet. The door slid open, and Kakashi entered, looking as tired as Naruto felt. Good, you're awake. The Hokage settled into a chair. We have a situation. 3 more dimensional tiers opened overnight. Reports of hollows are coming in from neighboring villages. It's spreading, Rangiku said grimly. There's more, Kakashi continued. Our sensors detected another foreign spiritual pressure entering through one of the tiers. Different from the hollows, but powerful. Rangiku tensed. Another Shinigami? We don't know. But whatever it is, it's heading this way. Kakashi fixed Naruto with a serious look. How soon can you be combat ready? Naruto swung his legs over the bed. Give me 5 minutes. Naruto, Rangiku protested. You need rest. The Hogyoku is my responsibility now. He stood, testing his balance. Surprisingly, he felt strong, stronger than before, even. And so is protecting this village. As if responding to his resolve, Naruto felt the Hogyoku pulse within him, sending warmth through his limbs. Kyoka Suigetsu, propped against the wall, seemed to shimmer. Be careful, Kurama warned. The Hogyoku responds to desire. And Aizen's desire is still linked to it. I know, Naruto murmured. But so is mine. He picked up the Zanpakuto, feeling its weight, both physical and metaphorical. Whatever was coming, he would face it. Not just as a shinobi, not just as a Jinchuriki, but as something new. Something that bridged worlds. Rangiku stood beside him, her resolution matching his own. I'll fight with you. It's my duty. Naruto grinned. Thanks. I have a feeling we're going to need all the help we can get. Beyond the hospital windows, dark clouds gathered unnaturally fast. A storm was brewing, both literally and figuratively. And at its center, a tear between worlds was growing larger by the minute. The battle for Konoha, for both worlds, was just beginning. Chapter 2, Fracture Points. The dimensional tear hovered above Konoha like a jagged wound in reality. Lightning crackled around its edges as it expanded, casting an eerie glow over the village. Teams of shinobi stood ready, weapons drawn, while civilians evacuated to the shelters. Naruto stood on the Hokage monument, Kyoka Suigetsu. Strapped to his back and Rangiku at his side. The Hogyoku pulsed inside him, responding to the tear's energy. It's bigger than the others, Rangiku noted, hand on her Zanpakuto. Whatever's coming through isn't an ordinary hollow. Great, Naruto muttered. Just what we need. They'd spent the past day fighting off scattered hollow attacks while Naruto recovered his strength. The fusion with the Hogyoku had changed him in ways he was still discovering, enhanced senses, greater chakra control, and occasionally, flashes of insight that didn't seem entirely his own. Stay focused, Kurama rumbled. Something's coming. The tear pulsed violently, expanding further. A small figure tumbled through, plummeting toward the village below. Shit! Naruto didn't hesitate. He leaped forward, channeling chakra to his feet as he raced down the mountain face. The wind whipped past him as he calculated the trajectory, pushing himself faster. He caught the falling figure 20 feet from impact, a child with short green hair and a cracked skull-like mask on her head. She wore a tattered green gown and looked up at him with wide, frightened eyes. "Hey, it's okay," Naruto said, landing gently on a rooftop. "You're safe now." The girl blinked at him, then broke into a wide smile. "Nell found nice person," she exclaimed, throwing her arms around his neck. Rangiku landed beside them, her expression shifting from battle-ready to confused. "An Arrancar child? How did she?" "Nell came through the big hole," the girl explained, pointing upward. "Nell was chasing bad hollows." "Wait, you're hunting hollows?" Naruto asked, setting her down carefully. "Nell is very strong." She puffed out her small chest proudly, then suddenly looked serious. Nell feels something familiar. Her gaze fixed on Naruto's chest. "The shiny thing. It feels like bad man's power." Rangiku and Naruto exchanged glances. "She means Aizen," Rangiku said quietly. "The Hogyoku." The girl, Nell, nodded vigorously. "Bad man hurt everyone." Nell ran away. Before they could question her further, a deafening roar echoed from the tear. 3 massive hollows emerged, each the size of a small building. "Minos Grande," Rangiku drew her Zanpakuto. "They must have followed her." Naruto set Nell down. "Stay here, okay? We'll handle this. But Nell can help, just stay safe." Naruto created a shadow clone to watch over her, then leaped toward the approaching hollows. The Hogyoku responded to his intent, power surging through him. His clothes shimmered, transforming into the modified Shinigami Shihakusho from before. Rangiku flash-stepped beside him, her Zanpakuto ready. "Remember what I taught you." Naruto drew Kyoka Suigetsu, channeling chakra into the blade. It resonated, glowing with blue energy. "Let's do this." They split up, each taking on a Minos. Rangiku was grace in motion, her ash Zanpakuto swirling around her target, slicing through its mask. Naruto faced his opponent head-on, combining his new spiritual power with shadow clones to confuse and surround it. The third Minos charged a massive energy attack, a Zero, and aimed it directly at the village. "No!" Naruto shouted, unable to reach it in time. What happened next stunned everyone watching. Nell suddenly appeared in the Zero's path, her small mouth opening impossibly wide. Instead of being vaporized, she swallowed the energy blast completely. Her body glowed momentarily before she opened her mouth again, firing the Zero back at the Minos, amplified. The redirected blast tore through the hollow, obliterating it instantly. What the hell? Naruto gaped, momentarily distracted from his own battle. His Minos took advantage, swinging a massive arm that sent him crashing through a water tower. Pain lanced through his side, but the Hogyoku pulsed, accelerating his healing. "Pay attention, kid." Kurama snapped. Naruto shook off the daze and charged back into the fight, Kyoka Suigetsu leading. This time, he moved with purpose, flash-stepping around the Minos and striking its legs to bring it down to his level. Once it collapsed to its knees, he delivered the killing blow through its mask. By the time he finished, Rangiku had dispatched her opponent as well. They regrouped on a rooftop, looking for Nell. The girl stood where they'd left her, wobbling slightly. Nell used too much power, she mumbled before her eyes rolled back. Pink smoke suddenly enveloped her small form. When it cleared, Nell was gone. In her place stood a woman with long green hair, the same broken mask fragment on her head, but now she wore a tattered white outfit that barely contained her curves. The torn fabric revealed a prominent 3 tattoo on her back. Rangiku gasped. Neliel tuo del Schwank. The former Tercera Espada. The woman, Neliel, collapsed forward. Naruto caught her before she hit the roof. "Friend or foe?" he asked Rangiku, cradling the unconscious Arrancar. "I don't know," Rangiku admitted. She vanished during Aizen's reign. Some thought she died, others thought she defected. The dimensional tear above them pulsed once more, then began to shrink, eventually closing with a sound like thunder. For the moment, at least, the immediate danger had passed. Let's get her to the hospital, Naruto decided. And maybe get some answers when she wakes up. Fascinating, Shikamaru muttered, studying the data spread across the intelligence division's screens. These tears aren't random at all. They're following a pattern. 3 days had passed since Neliel's arrival. She'd remained unconscious the first day, then reverted to child form upon waking. Despite her childish demeanor, she provided valuable information about hollows and Hueco Mundo that helped their research. Now, in a secure room beneath the Hokage Tower, Shikamaru had mapped out all known dimensional incursions. Naruto leaned against the wall, arms crossed. What kind of pattern? They're forming a spiral. Shikamaru pointed to the map. And the center point is Konoha, Naruto finished grimly. Of course it is. Not just Konoha, Shikamaru zoomed in further. The exact center appears to be you, Naruto. Or more specifically, the Hogyoku inside you. Rangiku frowned. The Hogyoku is acting as an anchor point between dimensions. And it's getting stronger, Naruto added. He'd felt the changes, the Hogyoku's power growing inside him, merging with his own chakra and Kurama's in ways that both exhilarated and concerned him. Child Nell, sitting on a desk swinging her legs, piped up. Shiny thing wants to make worlds go smush. She clapped her hands together for emphasis. Merge the worlds, Rangiku translated. But why? Naruto's expression darkened. Aizen. He told me in my dream that our worlds are merging. I thought he was just messing with me, but he needs both worlds, came a new voice. They turned to see adult Neliel standing in the doorway, her transformation apparently triggered by their conversation. Her eyes were sharp with intelligence, nothing like her childish alter ego. Nell. Naruto exclaimed. You're big again. I can maintain this form briefly when necessary. Her voice was rich and melodic, a stark contrast to her childish speech. Aizen seeks to create the Oken, the key to the Soul King's palace. His original plan failed, but with access to your world's chakra network. He could find another way, Shikamaru concluded. Troublesome doesn't begin to cover it. Neliel approached Naruto, studying him with penetrating eyes. The Hogyoku has bonded with you completely. This is unprecedented. Yeah, I'm special that way, Naruto said with forced lightness. Always breaking the rules. It chose you for a reason, Neliel said. Just as Kyoka Suigetsu accepted you as its wielder. Naruto's hand unconsciously moved to the Zanpakuto at his side. Since the fusion with the Hogyoku, he'd felt the sword calling to him, urging him to release its true power. Speaking of which, Rangiku interjected, you need training, Naruto. Real training. If you're going to wield a Zanpakuto and control the Hogyoku, you can't just wing it anymore. She's right, Neliel agreed. I can help too. Between us, we can teach you to harness both Shinigami and Arrancar abilities. Naruto glanced between the two women. So I get 2 senseis. Lucky me. Shikamaru rolled his eyes. Focus, Naruto. The fate of 2 worlds might depend on this. No pressure or anything, Naruto muttered. But inside, alongside his usual determination, he felt the Hogyoku pulse with anticipation. Training Ground 44, the Forest of Death, seemed appropriate for the kind of power they were dealing with. Far from civilian eyes, with enough space and natural barriers to contain whatever might happen. Naruto stood in a clearing, Rangiku and Neliel facing him. The adult Neliel had managed to maintain her form, though she admitted it was draining. First, Rangiku began, you need to understand the difference between chakra and spiritual pressure. They're similar but distinct. Chakra is physical and spiritual energy combined, Neliel added. Spiritual pressure is purely spiritual, but manifests physically. Naruto nodded. So I need to separate them? Not exactly. Rangiku circled him, adjusting his stance. You need to learn how they interact. The Hogyoku is acting as a converter of sorts, translating between the two power systems. Close your eyes, Neliel instructed. Feel the energy inside you. Not just your chakra, not just the nine tails, but the Hogyoku too. Naruto obeyed, focusing inward. He'd grown skilled at sensing chakra during sage training, but this was different. The Hogyoku existed in a space between dimensions, its power alien yet increasingly familiar. I feel it, he murmured. Like, a heart beating beside Kurama's. Good, Rangiku moved behind him, her hands lightly touching his shoulders. Now draw on it, just a little. Let it flow alongside your chakra, not replacing it. Naruto concentrated, pulling gently on the Hogyoku's power. Energy surged through him, stronger than he expected. His eyes snapped open as blue-gold light enveloped him. Whoa! He stared at his glowing hands. That's intense. Too much, Neliel observed. Control is essential. The Hogyoku responds to will and desire. It amplifies intention. So it's kinda like sage mode, Naruto reasoned. Drawing on external power but channeling it with my own chakra. That's, actually a good comparison, Rangiku admitted, looking impressed. Try again, but imagine a valve you're opening just slightly. Naruto tried several more times, gradually gaining better control. By midday, he could maintain a stable flow of spiritual pressure alongside his chakra without the dramatic light show. Now for the fun part, Rangiku said, drawing her Zanpakuto. Let's see what Kyoka Suigetsu can do in your hands. Naruto unsheathed the sword, feeling it hum with recognition. Aizen used this for his complete hypnosis, right? Yes, but each Zanpakuto responds uniquely to its wielder, Neliel explained. Your will may shape its abilities differently. To release its Shikai form, you need to learn its name, Rangiku instructed. But you already know it. The question is whether it will respond to you the same way it did to Aizen. Naruto held the blade before him. So I just say the release command. Both women stepped back cautiously. Yes, Rangiku said. But be prepared. Its power is dangerous. Naruto took a deep breath. Careful, Kurama warned. This sword reeks of deception. Shatter, Kyoka Suigetsu, Naruto commanded. The blade glowed, then shimmered like heat waves. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the clearing around them wavered, dissolving into a different landscape entirely, the white sands of Hueco Mundo. An illusion, Neliel whispered, looking around. But so complete. Rangiku turned in a slow circle. Naruto, are you doing this consciously? I don't think so. Naruto stared at the sword in his hand, still shimmering slightly. It's showing us something it thinks is important. The scene shifted again, revealing a fortress in the distance, Las Noches. Standing before its gates was Aizen, but not as Naruto had seen him in his dreams. This Aizen was merged with the Hogyoku, his body transforming into something inhuman. The final battle, Rangiku said quietly. When he was defeated. As they watched, the scene played out, Aizen's transformation, his fight with Ichigo Kurosaki, and finally, his sealing and imprisonment. But then it showed something more, the Hogyoku, seemingly dormant in the sealed Aizen, secretly working to preserve his consciousness. He planned this, Neliel realized. Even in defeat, he had a contingency. The illusion dissolved, returning them to the forest clearing. Kyoka Suigetsu returned to its sealed state in Naruto's hand. Well, Naruto said after a moment of heavy silence. That was informative. The Zanpakuto is warning you, Ranjiku's expression was grave. Aizen's consciousness persists within the Hogyoku. He's trying to use you. I figured that part out already. Naruto sheathed the sword. But now I know he can be beaten. This Ichigo guy did it once. With tremendous sacrifice, Neliel cautioned. And Ichigo had trained as a Shinigami for years. Then I'd better learn fast. Naruto's determination hardened. Because I'm not letting Aizen use me or the Hogyoku to hurt anyone. The training intensified after that. Days blurred together as Naruto worked to master his new abilities. Rangiku taught him Shinigami combat techniques, while Neliel, when in her adult form, instructed him in understanding hollow powers. Between sessions, they investigated more dimensional tiers, fought incursions, and gathered intelligence. The pattern Shikamaru identified continued to develop, a spiral tightening around Konoha with increasing intensity. Throughout it all, Naruto felt himself growing closer to both women. Ranjiku's fierce loyalty and hidden vulnerability reminded him of Sakura, though with a playfulness all her own. Neliel's dual nature fascinated him, her childish form innocent and trusting, her adult self powerfully intelligent and perceptive. Your progress is remarkable, Neliel told him one evening as they rested after a particularly intense training session. She'd maintained her adult form longer than usual, though fatigue showed in her eyes. I've always been a fast learner, Naruto grinned, passing her a water bottle. Especially when the fate of the world depends on it. Rangiku, sprawled on the grass nearby, snorted. You're reckless, is what you are. Charging in without thinking. Says the woman who flash-stepped into a nest of Jillians yesterday, Naruto retorted good-naturedly. They were threatening a civilian shelter. Rangiku defended. And you knew I'd back you up, Naruto pointed out. Ranjiku's expression softened. Yes. I did. A comfortable silence fell between them. These moments had become more frequent, quiet companionship amid chaos, understanding without words. Why did the Hogyoku choose me? Naruto asked suddenly. Out of everyone it could have bonded with. Neliel considered this. The Hogyoku responds to desire and potential. In you, it found both in abundance. But what desire? Naruto pressed. I never wanted power for its own sake. Perhaps that's exactly why, Rangiku suggested. You desire power only to protect others, never for yourself. Unlike Aizen, Neliel added quietly. Naruto's hand moved unconsciously to his stomach, where the Hogyoku resided alongside Kurama's seal. He's been quiet lately. No more dream visits. That's concerning, not reassuring, Neliel said. It means he's conserving strength for something. As if summoned by her words, a massive spiritual pressure suddenly crashed down on them. All three jumped to their feet as the sky above the training ground tore open, another dimensional rift, but larger than any before. This isn't a natural tear, Rangiku drew her Zanpakuto. Someone's forcing it open from the other side. Hollows poured through by the dozens, ranging from basic forms to multiple Minos Grande. Behind them, directing the horde, stood a humanoid figure in white, another Arrancar. Konoha, Naruto realized. They're heading for the village. He didn't wait for a response, already moving. The Hogyoku responded to his urgency, power flowing through him as his appearance shifted to the now familiar modified Shinigami form. Use my power too, Kurama urged. Full synchronization. Naruto nodded, drawing on both the Hogyoku and Kurama simultaneously. Golden chakra cloak merged with blue spiritual pressure, creating a dazzling aura around him. He flash-stepped ahead of the hollow horde, Kyoka Suigetsu drawn. Stop, he commanded, releasing enough combined spiritual pressure and chakra to make the lesser hollows falter. The Arrancar leading them paused, studying Naruto with cold eyes. The host, it said simply. Lord Aizen will be pleased. Aizen can kiss my ass, Naruto retorted. You're not getting past me. We don't need to. The Arrancar smiled thinly. This is merely a distraction. Realization hit Naruto like a physical blow. There's another attack. Rangiku and Neliel caught up, taking positions beside him. Go, Neliel urged, drawing her own Zanpakuto. We'll handle this. Find the real target. Naruto hesitated only briefly before nodding. Be careful. He flash-stepped away, racing toward the village proper. As he moved, he extended his senses, searching for other disturbances. There, on the other side of Konoha, near the Hokage Tower. Another tear was forming, smaller but more precise. And the spiritual pressure emerging from it was all too familiar. Naruto pushed himself faster, covering ground at blinding speed. He arrived just as the tear fully opened, revealing a single figure stepping through. Sosuke Aizen, or something resembling him. His form wasn't completely physical, more like a projection made solid. The Hogyoku embedded in his chest pulsed in rhythm with the one inside Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki, Aizen's smooth voice carried across the rooftops. At last we meet in person. Or as close as we can manage for now. Shinobi had already responded to the incursion, surrounding Aizen cautiously. Kakashi stood among them, Sharingan exposed. Stand back. Naruto called to them. This isn't someone you can fight. Listen to him, Aizen suggested mildly. Your techniques would be ineffective. What do you want? Naruto demanded, moving closer while signaling the others to fall back. Merely to deliver a message. Aizen's gaze traveled over Konoha with clinical interest. The merging of our worlds is accelerating. Soon, the process will be irreversible. And you're helping it along, Naruto accused. These attacks, the tears, you're weakening the barriers deliberately. Perceptive, Aizen acknowledged with a slight smile. The Hogyoku has chosen well. But you misunderstand my intentions. Oh yeah? Enlighten me. Creation requires destruction first, Aizen explained, as if discussing philosophy over tea. The current order of both our worlds is flawed, built on deception and inequality. I sought to overthrow the Soul King for this very reason. So you appoint yourself God instead? Naruto scoffed. I've heard this before. You're no different from Madara or Kagaya. Something flickered in Aizen's eyes, annoyance, perhaps. I am nothing like your primitive deities. I seek evolution, not dominion. Same difference. Naruto drew Kyoka Suigetsu. And I'm not letting it happen. You already are. Aizen gestured to the sword in Naruto's hand. Each time you use my Zanpakuto, each time you draw on the Hogyoku's power, you accelerate the merger. Naruto faltered. You're lying. Am I? Aizen's smile returned. Ask your new friends. They understand the truth. Before Naruto could respond, Aizen's form began to fade. The next phase begins now, Naruto Uzumaki. When we meet again, it will be as true equals, or as ruler and subject. The choice is yours. The dimensional tear closed behind him, leaving Naruto standing alone with his Zanpakuto drawn and uncomfortable questions forming. Is it true? Naruto demanded later, once they had regrouped in the Hokage's office. Am I making things worse every time I use these powers? Rangiku and Neliel exchanged glances. Their silence was answer enough. Why didn't you tell me? Hurt edged into his voice. We weren't certain, Rangiku said carefully. We suspected, but you needed these abilities to fight the Hollows, Neliel finished. The immediate threat outweighed the long-term concern. That wasn't your call to make, Naruto snapped, uncharacteristic anger flaring. The Hogyoku pulsed inside him, resonating with his emotion. Naruto, Kakashi interjected calmly. They made the right decision. Without your new powers, we would have been overwhelmed days ago. Naruto paced the office, struggling to control his frustration. So what now? I just stopped using the Hogyoku. Let the Hollows run wild. No, Shikamaru said from where he leaned against the wall. We find another way to close the tears permanently. Deal with the cause, not just the symptoms. The Hogyoku itself, Neliel suggested. If we could remove it from you and seal it properly, not happening, Naruto said firmly. It's fully integrated with me now. Trying to remove it could kill me, and probably release Aizen completely. The kid's right, Kurama rumbled, his voice resonating in Naruto's mind but audible to everyone present, a new ability they discovered during training. The Hogyoku has intertwined with both our energies. Separation would be catastrophic. Kakashi sighed. Then we need to understand exactly how Aizen is manipulating events. His projection required enormous power. He can't maintain such direct interference often. He doesn't need to, Neliel pointed out. The merger is happening regardless. He's just accelerating it at strategic points. Naruto stopped pacing suddenly. Kyoka Suigetsu, he said. The sword showed us Aizen's defeat. What if it can show us more? Rangiku looked uncertain. Its abilities are unpredictable in your hands. And using it furthers Aizen's goals. Maybe, Naruto acknowledged. But it's also the one thing he created that seems to be working against him now. It warned us about his consciousness in the Hogyoku. It's worth trying, Kakashi decided. But carefully, and in a controlled environment. They relocated to a secured underground chamber, originally designed for containing tailed beasts if necessary. Protective seals lined the walls, floor, and ceiling. Naruto stood in the center, Kyoka Suigetsu held before him. The others watched from behind a barrier, ready to intervene if necessary. Remember, Rangiku called. Complete hypnosis affects all senses. What you see will feel absolutely real. Naruto nodded. He closed his eyes, centering himself. The Hogyoku pulsed inside him, almost eager. Kurama's energy circulated protectively, ready to counter any threat. Shatter, Kyoka Suigetsu, he commanded. The blade shimmered, releasing its power. But instead of creating an external illusion as before, it pulled Naruto inward, into a mindscape unlike any he'd visited. He stood in a vast library, shelves stretching endlessly in all directions. Each book, he somehow knew, contained memories, knowledge, plans, Aizen's mind made manifest. Interesting approach, came Aizen's voice from behind him. Naruto turned to find the former Shinigami captain sitting at a desk, perfectly composed in his white Arrancar uniform. This isn't what I expected, Naruto admitted. Kyoka Suigetsu reflects truth through deception, Aizen explained. You sought understanding, so it brought you to the source. Your mind. A representation of it, yes. Aizen gestured to the surrounding shelves. Feel free to explore. I have nothing to hide from you. Naruto didn't move. Why are you helping me understand? Because understanding accelerates acceptance. Aizen's smile was infuriatingly calm. The more you know, the more inevitable our cooperation will seem. You're pretty confident for a guy who got his ass kicked and sealed away. A flicker of annoyance crossed Aizen's face before his mask of serenity returned. Temporary setbacks. The Hogyokus will transcend such limitations. The Hogyoku doesn't seem too happy with you, Naruto countered. It chose me, after all. It chose a vessel, Aizen corrected. The Hogyoku requires physical form to enact its will in your world. You are merely its current host. And what is its will, exactly? Aizen stood, walking to a nearby shelf. He selected a book, opening it to reveal moving images instead of text. The Hogyoku desires evolution, the breaking of boundaries between separate states of being. Shinigami, hollow, human, these distinctions are artificial constructs. The book showed beings of light, neither Shinigami nor hollow nor human, but something transcending all three. So the merging of worlds is merely the beginning, Aizen confirmed. First dimensional boundaries dissolve, then the boundaries between different forms of existence. Naruto's eyes narrowed. And you appointed yourself overseer of this evolution. Someone must guide it. Aizen closed the book. The Hogyoku needs conscious direction, or the result will be chaos. And you're volunteering out of the goodness of your heart, Naruto said sarcastically. Aizen chuckled. Skepticism is healthy. But consider this, if not me, then who? You. Are you prepared to make the necessary sacrifices? To decide which aspects of which world survive the merger? Naruto fell silent, considering. The responsibility was staggering. I don't want anyone to suffer, he said finally. That's my only condition. Suffering is inevitable in evolution, Aizen countered. The question is whether the end result justifies it. That's where we differ, Naruto said firmly. I don't believe suffering is ever worth it if there's another way. And if there isn't? Before Naruto could respond, the library around them shuddered violently. Books fell from shelves as the structure itself began to crack. It seems our time is limited, Aizen observed calmly. Your friends are attempting to break the connection. One last question, Naruto said quickly. How do I remove your consciousness from the Hogyoku without destroying it? Aizen's smile turned genuine, almost approving. Now you're asking the right questions. The answer is simple, you can't. My will and the Hogyokus have become one. Separate us, and both cease to function. The library collapsed around them, reality rushing back in. Naruto gasped, finding himself on his knees in the chamber, Rangiku and Neliel beside him looking concerned. Naruto. Ranjiku's hand was on his shoulder. Are you alright? You were unresponsive for almost an hour. An hour? He blinked, disoriented. It felt like minutes. Time flows differently in such states, Neliel explained. What did you learn? Naruto sheathed Kyoka Suigetsu, his mind racing. More than I wanted to, he admitted. Aizen's consciousness and the Hogyoku are completely merged now. We can't separate them without destroying the Hogyoku itself. Then that's what we must do, Kakashi said grimly from beyond the barrier. It's not that simple, Naruto stood, steadying himself. The Hogyoku is integrated with me and Kurama now. And it's the only thing currently stabilizing the dimensional tiers. Destroy it, and both worlds could collapse completely. Silence fell as they absorbed this information. Then what options do we have? Shikamaru asked finally. Naruto took a deep breath. I need to master the Hogyoku completely. Take full control before Aizen can. Use it to repair the dimensional boundaries instead of breaking them. Is that even possible? Rangiku looked doubtful. I don't know, Naruto admitted. But it's our best shot. Neliel studied him intently. It would require perfect harmony between your will, Kurama's, and the Hogyoku's original purpose. Few beings could achieve such integration. Good thing I specialize in the impossible, then. Naruto attempted a smile, though uncertainly nodded him. But I'll need help. More training, more control. You have it, Rangiku said without hesitation. Neliel nodded in agreement. As they left the chamber, Naruto felt the weight of responsibility settling over him. The fate of two worlds now hinged on his ability to master a power even Aizen couldn't fully control. And deep inside, the Hogyoku pulsed with what felt almost like anticipation. Training intensified after that revelation. Days blurred into weeks as Naruto pushed himself beyond his limits, working to achieve perfect synchronization with both Kurama and the Hogyoku. Meanwhile, the dimensional tiers continued to appear, though Konoha had developed better responses. Teams of specialized shinobi worked alongside Rangiku and Neliel to contain incursions, buying Naruto the time he needed. Again, Rangiku instructed one morning, her voice firm but encouraging. Focus on separating your spiritual pressure from your chakra, then recombining them consciously. Naruto sat cross-legged, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool air. The Hogyoku's power flowed through him like a river, sometimes cooperating, sometimes resisting. "It's fighting me today," he grunted, forcing the energies to separate. "Like it has its own agenda." "It does," Neliel observed. She'd maintained her adult form more consistently lately, her power stabilizing through regular combat. "The Hogyoku has always had its own will. That's what makes it so dangerous. And so valuable," Kurama added. "A tool with agency can accomplish what a passive one cannot." Naruto focused harder, visualizing the energies as distinct streams: golden chakra, crimson fox chakra, and blue-white spiritual pressure. Slowly, painfully, he separated them into 3 distinct flows, then began the more difficult task of recombining them under his conscious control. The ground beneath him cracked as power built, the air itself seeming to warp around him. When he finally achieved perfect balance, light erupted from his body in a controlled column that shot skyward. "Yes!" Rangiku exclaimed. "That's it. Hold it." Naruto maintained the state for nearly a minute before releasing it gradually, exactly as they'd practiced. When he opened his eyes, both women were smiling. "Your control is improving," Neliel said approvingly. "Soon you'll be able to maintain it in combat." "Not soon enough," Naruto sighed, accepting a water bottle from Rangiku. "The tears are getting worse. That last one in the northern district almost reached the civilian shelters before we contained it." "One step at a time," Rangiku reminded him, sitting beside him. "Rushing will only set you back." Their shoulders touched, a casual contact that had become familiar over the weeks of training. Similar moments with Neliel had increased too, a hand lingering during stance correction, shared meals after exhausting sessions, quiet conversations under starlit skies. Naruto wasn't oblivious to what was developing, but the looming crisis demanded his focus. Still, these connections strengthened his resolve, giving him additional reasons to succeed. "Let's try something new," Neliel suggested after a brief rest. "The complete hypnosis ability of Kyoka Suigetsu, you haven't fully mastered it yet." Naruto frowned. "I'm not sure I want to. Controlling someone else's perception feels wrong." "It needn't be used for deception," Neliel argued. "Consider it as a tool for communication or protection. You could shield civilians from seeing hollows that would traumatize them, for instance. Or create safe paths during evacuations," Rangiku added. "Make people see clear routes when real ones are blocked." Naruto considered this. "I hadn't thought of it that way." "Power itself is neutral," Neliel said softly. "Your intent shapes its morality." After some hesitation, Naruto agreed to try. He drew Kyoka Suigetsu, feeling its familiar weight and the subtle hum of its power. "Shatter, Kyoka Suigetsu," he commanded, but with a different intention than before, not to deceive, but to communicate. The sword responded differently, its glow warmer somehow. Instead of creating a false reality, it expanded Naruto's consciousness outward, connecting him to Rangiku and Neliel simultaneously. They gasped as mental connection formed. Not mind reading exactly, but a shared space where thoughts could be exchanged directly. "This is unexpected," Ranjiku's thought came through clearly. "But useful," Neliel's mental voice added. Instantaneous communication during battle could be invaluable. Naruto maintained the connection for several minutes, exploring its capabilities before releasing it. The three of them stared at each other afterward, processing the experience. "That wasn't complete hypnosis as Aizen used it," Rangiku said wonderingly. "It was something new." "The Zanpakuto is adapting to you," Neliel explained. "Reflecting your desire to connect rather than control." Naruto looked at the sword with new appreciation. "So it's evolving too." Before they could discuss further, a familiar presence approached, Shikamaru, moving with uncharacteristic urgency. "Naruto," he called as he entered the clearing. "We've got a situation. A major tear is forming directly over the village center. Bigger than anything we've seen before." They rushed back to find Konoha mobilized for battle. Shinobi took defensive positions while civilians evacuated to shelters. Above, a massive dimensional tear stretched across the sky like a wound, pulsing ominously. Kakashi met them at the command center, his expression grave beneath his mask. Our sensors indicate something massive coming through. Not just hollows this time. Aizen? Naruto asked, tension coiling in his gut. Possibly. But there's more, multiple high-level spiritual pressures. As if on cue, figures began emerging from the tear, Arrancar, at least a dozen, led by a being that radiated power comparable to Aizen himself. Tall and thin with a melancholy expression, he surveyed Konoha with dispassionate eyes. Okuiora, Neliel whispered, shock evident in her voice. The Quarta Espada. But he was destroyed. Aizen must have found a way to reconstruct him, Rangiku said grimly. Using the Hogyoku's power. The Arrancar army descended upon the village. Unlike previous incursions, this was a coordinated assault, strategic, methodical, targeting Konoha's defensive infrastructure. They're not just attacking, Shikamaru realized. They're invading. Setting up for occupation. Not while I'm breathing, Naruto growled. The Hogyoku pulsed inside him, responding to his determination. He drew on all three energy sources, his chakra, Kurama's power, and the Hogyoku, synchronizing them as he practiced. Light engulfed him as he transformed, his appearance shifting to a new form that combined elements of his Nine-Tails chakra mode with Shinigami and Arrancar features. Naruto, Rangiku warned, concern in her eyes. Don't overdo it. I've got this, he assured her. Protect the civilians. I'll handle the leader. He flash-stepped toward Okuiora before anyone could object, covering the distance in an instant. The Espada turned to face him, green eyes emotionless. Naruto Uzumaki, Okuiora said flatly. Lord Aizen sends his regards. Yeah. Send this back to him. Naruto formed a Rasengan infused with spiritual pressure, the spiraling sphere glowing with combined power. Okuiora didn't flinch. Your resistance is meaningless. The worlds will merge regardless of your actions today. We'll see about that. Naruto launched forward, Rasengan leading. Okuiora blocked with his bare hand, spiritual pressure condensing around it to absorb the impact. The resulting shockwave shattered windows for blocks around. Impressive power, Okuiora acknowledged. But unfocused. He counterattacked with blinding speed, his fist connecting with Naruto's chest before he could dodge. Pain exploded through Naruto as he crashed through a building. Get up. Kurama urged. He's stronger than he looks. Naruto pushed himself from the rubble, assessing his opponent. Okuiora hadn't even drawn his Zanpakuto yet, suggesting he was holding back significantly. Around them, battle raged. Rangiku and Neliel fought other Arrancar, while Konoha's shinobi engaged the lesser hollows that continued to pour through smaller tiers. You're right, Naruto told Okuiora, drawing Kyoka Suigetsu. I've been unfocused. Let me fix that. He channeled power into the blade. Shatter, Kyoka Suigetsu. The sword released its power, but not as Aizen had used it. Instead of creating illusions, it enhanced Naruto's perception, showing him the flow of spiritual pressure around Okuiora, revealing vulnerabilities. Interesting, Okuiora remarked. You've modified the Zanpakuto's abilities. I made it mine, Naruto corrected, then attacked again. This time, his movements were precisely targeted, striking at the points where Okuiora's spiritual pressure flowed most densely. The Espada's eyes widened slightly as Naruto's blade connected, drawing first blood. Impossible, Okuiora murmured. You've only had these powers for weeks. Fast learner, Naruto grinned, pressing his advantage. And I've got good teachers. Their battle intensified, moving across Konoha at speeds most shinobi could barely track. Naruto combined flash step with flying Raijin techniques he'd learned from studying his father's jutsu, appearing and disappearing faster than even Okuiora could predict. But the espada was powerful and experienced. As the fight continued, he adapted to Naruto's style, countering more effectively. Enough games, Ulquiorra decided after taking a particularly hard hit. In close, Murcielago. His release triggered an explosion of spiritual pressure so dense it felt like gravity increased tenfold. His form changed, bat-like wings sprouting from his back, his spiritual pressure turning dark and oppressive. "This is my true form," Ulquiorra stated. "Few have seen it and lived." He moved with new speed, appearing behind Naruto and striking before he could react. The blows sent Naruto crashing through multiple buildings before he managed to stabilize himself. Blood trickled from a gash on his forehead, but the Hogyoku pulsed, accelerating his healing. Naruto wiped the blood away, assessing his options. "We need to synchronize completely," Kurama advised. "Full integration." "It's risky," Naruto thought back. "We haven't perfected it yet. No choice now. He's going to kill you otherwise." Naruto knew the fox was right. He closed his eyes briefly, centering himself. Then, with deliberate intent, he allowed all barriers between his chakra, Kurama's, and the Hogyoku to dissolve. Power flooded him unlike anything he'd experienced before, not just strength, but awareness. The Hogyoku's consciousness expanded his perception beyond physical limitations, showing him the interconnected fabric of both worlds. When he opened his eyes, his appearance had transformed again. The modified Shinigami robes now incorporated elements of his Sage of Six Paths form, while fragments of a hollow mask formed on the right side of his face. "What are you?" Ulquiorra asked, genuine curiosity in his voice for the first time. "Something new," Naruto answered, his voice resonating with triple harmonics. Something neither Aizen nor anyone else predicted. He flash-stepped, moving faster than before, appearing directly before Ulquiorra. The espada launched a black zero at point-blank range, but Naruto simply caught it in his bare hand, compressing it until it dissipated. "Impossible," Ulquiorra repeated, attacking with renewed fury. Their battle reached new intensity, spiritual pressure and chakra colliding in waves that threatened to tear Konoha apart. Recognizing the danger to the village, Naruto grabbed Ulquiorra and flash-stepped them both to an uninhabited area outside the walls. "Your concern for others is weakness," Ulquiorra observed, launching another attack. "No," Naruto countered, blocking effortlessly. "It's my strength." He formed a new technique, a Raisin Shuriken infused with spiritual pressure. The blade-like edges extended, incorporating elements of a Getsuga Tensho as Rangiku had described it. "This ends now," Naruto declared, launching the hybrid technique. Ulquiorra attempted to counter with his strongest zero, but the combined attack cut through it, striking him directly. The explosion that followed could be seen from Konoha, a pillar of light shooting into the sky. When the dust settled, Ulquiorra remained standing, though severely damaged. Half his body had disintegrated, yet his expression remained calm. "Remarkable," he said quietly. "Lord Aizen was right about you." "What's that supposed to mean?" Naruto approached cautiously, ready for a final attack. Instead, Ulquiorra simply stared at him. "You've achieved what he could not, true integration with the Hogyoku. It doesn't control you, nor do you control it. You've become something entirely new." "Is that why he sent you? To test me?" "Partly." Ulquiorra's body continued to disintegrate. "But also to deliver a message. The final phase begins at the nexus point. 3 days from now, when the barriers are thinnest." "What nexus point?" Naruto demanded. "What's happening in 3 days?" But Ulquiorra was already fading, his body turning to ash. "Choose wisely, Naruto Uzumaki. The future of both worlds rests with you now, not Lord Aizen." With those cryptic words, he dissolved completely, leaving Naruto alone with more questions than answers. The invasion force retreated after Ulquiorra's defeat, the dimensional tear closing behind them. Konoha had suffered significant damage but relatively few casualties, thanks to the combined efforts of shinobi and their otherworldly allies. In the Hokage's office, Naruto recounted his battle and Ulquiorra's final message. His new transformed state had receded, though maintaining it had been less taxing than expected. The nexus point, Shikamaru mused. It must be where all the dimensional tiers converge. The center of the spiral pattern, Kakashi nodded. Which is, the Valley of the End, Naruto finished. Where Sasuke and I had our final battle. Of course, Neliel said thoughtfully. Places where significant spiritual or chakra events occurred would naturally form weak points between dimensions. Rangiku looked concerned. 3 days isn't much time. And we still don't know exactly what Aizen is planning. I think I do, Naruto said quietly. All eyes turned to him. During the integration with the Hogyoku, I saw everything. Both worlds, the barriers between them, the tiers. Aizen isn't just trying to merge the worlds randomly. He's creating a new dimension altogether, one where he sets the rules. A pocket dimension? Neliel asked, alarmed. Like Hueco Mundo? Bigger. More comprehensive. Naruto struggled to explain what he'd glimpsed. He wants to extract elements of both worlds and combine them, leaving the rest to collapse. Selective salvation, Kakashi concluded grimly. He decides who and what survives. Playing God, Shikamaru added. We can't let that happen, Rangiku stated firmly. We won't, Naruto assured them. Now that I understand what he's doing, I can counter it. But I'll need to be at the nexus point when it happens. It could be a trap, Neliel warned. Definitely a trap, Naruto agreed. But also our only chance. They spent the remaining time preparing, fortifying Konoha, developing contingency plans, and helping Naruto refine his control over his new integrated state. Rangiku and Neliel worked tirelessly alongside him, their bond strengthening through shared purpose and growing affection. The night before they were to depart for the Valley of the End, Naruto found himself unable to sleep. He sat on the Hokage monument, gazing over the village he'd sworn to protect, now expanded to include 2 entire worlds. Soft footsteps approached, Rangiku and Neliel, both apparently sharing his insomnia. Mind if we join you? Rangiku asked. Naruto smiled, patting the stone beside him. They settled on either side, a comfortable silence falling between them. Scared? Neliel asked eventually. Terrified, Naruto admitted. Not of fighting Aizen, but of making the wrong choice. The power to reshape worlds, no one should have that. Yet here we are, Rangiku said softly. And if anyone should have that power, I'm glad it's you. We both are, Neliel agreed. Your heart is pure, Naruto. Your desire has always been to protect, never to control. What about after? Naruto asked, the question that had been plaguing him. If we succeed, what happens to you two? Do you go back to Soul Society? The women exchanged glances. I don't know if we can, Rangiku said honestly. The connection to Soul Society has been weakening. We might be stranded here regardless of the outcome. Would that be so terrible? Naruto asked, vulnerability in his voice. Neliel's hand found his. No, she said simply. It wouldn't. This world has much to offer, Rangiku added, her shoulder pressing against his. Including you. Naruto felt warmth spread through him, momentarily pushing back the weight of responsibility. When this is over, he promised, we'll figure it out. Together. They remained there until dawn, 3 beings from different worlds finding common ground under the same stars. As the sun rose, casting golden light over Konoha, Naruto felt the Hogyoku pulse inside him. Not with Aizen's hunger for power, but with something else, possibility. The chance to create something new, not through destruction, but through understanding and connection. Whatever awaited at the Valley of the End, he wouldn't face it alone. Chapter 3, Worlds Apart. Hearts together dawn painted the sky in fiery orange as Naruto, Rangiku, and Neliel raced through the forest toward the Valley of the End. They moved in silence, each lost in their own thoughts about what awaited them. Naruto led the way, occasionally touching the spot where the Hogyoku pulsed inside him. It had grown more active overnight, almost eager, like it knew something momentous approached. The sword at his hip, Kyoka Suigetsu, hummed with similar anticipation. "You feeling it too?" he asked Kurama internally. "Yes," the fox replied. "The barriers between worlds are weakening by the minute. Whatever Aizen has planned, it's already in motion." They paused at a ridge overlooking a vast forest. In the distance, the massive statues of the Valley of the End were just visible, tiny from this distance. "I can sense the dimensional distortion from here," Neliel said, her expression grim. Her adult form had stabilized completely since their last battle, her full power restored. Rangiku nodded. "Like a wound in reality that's been torn open and left to fester." Naruto took a deep breath. "Remember the plan. We assessed the situation first. No charging in blindly." Both women gave him skeptical looks. "What?" he protested. "Just noting the irony of you advocating caution," Rangiku teased, though tension underlined her words. "Hey, I've grown." Naruto grinned despite the gravity of their mission. "Besides, we're not just fighting some random enemy. This is Aizen. And we only get one shot at this," Neliel added soberly. They continued onward, moving faster. As they drew closer to the valley, the air itself seemed to change, growing thicker, charged with overlapping energies. Naruto felt the Hogyoku responding, power surging through him almost involuntarily. "It's starting," he warned his companions. "Whatever it is." They crested a final hill and the Valley of the End spread before them, but not as any of them remembered it. The massive waterfall now flowed upward, defying gravity. The statues of Hashirama and Madara were cracked with pulsing blue light. And at the center, where Naruto and Sasuke had clashed in their final battle, a swirling vortex of energy stretched from the ground to the sky. "Holy shit," Naruto breathed. Dimensional tiers had appeared throughout the valley, each one revealing glimpses of different worlds, the white sands of Hueco Mundo, the ordered streets of Soul Society, and others Naruto didn't recognize. Reality itself seemed to be fragmenting, pieces of different dimensions bleeding into each other. And standing calmly at the center of it all was Aizen, no longer a projection but physically present, his body partially merged with the swirling vortex. "He's using himself as the anchor point," Neliel realized. His consciousness was already spread across dimensions through the Hogyoku. Now he's making himself the nexus. "Can he do that?" Naruto asked. "Apparently," Rangiku replied grimly. "But it's killing him. Look." She was right. Despite his serene expression, Aizen's body was deteriorating, parts of him dissolving into spiritual particles only to reform moments later. "He needs a stable vessel," Neliel concluded. "That's why he wants you, Naruto. Your body has successfully integrated with the Hogyoku in a way his never did." Naruto's jaw tightened. "Then let's disappoint him." They stepped down into the valley, approaching cautiously. As they drew closer, Aizen turned to face them, a smile spreading across his crumbling features. Right on time, he greeted them, voice eerily calm despite his deteriorating state. "I was beginning to worry you wouldn't make it for the main event." "Cut the crap, Aizen," Naruto called. "We're here to stop you." "Stop me?" Aizen's smile widened. "You can't stop what's already in motion. The dimensional merger has reached critical mass. Even if you killed me now, which you can't, the process would continue." "Then we'll find another way," Naruto insisted. Aizen studied him with clinical interest. "The Hogyoku has transformed you remarkably. Far more than I anticipated. You've achieved in weeks what took me decades." "Maybe because my goals aren't totally self-serving," Naruto shot back. "Self-serving?" Aizen looked genuinely amused. You still don't understand. I seek to remake reality itself, to create a world without the arbitrary divisions between life and death, human and spirit. By destroying everything that exists now, Rangiku countered. Billions would die. A necessary sacrifice for evolution, Aizen said dismissively. But enough talk. You're here for a reason, Naruto Uzumaki. He raised his hand, and the vortex behind him pulsed violently. Energy lashed out like lightning, striking the ground around them. I can't maintain this form much longer, Aizen admitted. The Hogyoku requires a proper vessel to complete the merger. Naruto drew Kyoka Suigetsu. Not happening. We'll see, Aizen replied calmly. The battle began without further preamble. Aizen moved with impossible speed, appearing behind Naruto in an instant. Only years of combat instinct saved him as he twisted away from what would have been a fatal blow. Rangiku and Neliel engaged simultaneously, their Zanpakuto flashing. Aizen parried both attacks single-handedly, his deteriorating body seemingly no limitation to his combat abilities. Growl, Hiniko. Rangiku released her Shirkai, the blade dissolving into ash that swirled toward Aizen. Declare, Gamuza. Neliel followed suit, transforming into her Resurrection form, a centaur-like creature with a lance. Aizen merely smiled at their releases. With a casual gesture, he dispersed Rangiku's ash and sidestepped Neliel's charge. Is this truly the best soul society and Hueco Mundo have to offer? He taunted. Naruto seized the opportunity while Aizen was engaged with the women. Shatter, Kyoka Suigetsu, he commanded, activating the sword's release. The blade shimmered, but instead of creating illusions as Aizen had used it, Naruto employed the modified ability he discovered, enhancing his perception while creating a mental link with Rangiku and Neliel. I can see his spiritual pressure flow, Naruto communicated mentally. There's a pattern to it. He's not as stable as he appears. The right side, Neliel observed through the link. His spiritual pressure is weaker there. Coordinate attacks, Rangiku added. 3-point strike. They moved as one, attacking from 3 different angles simultaneously. Aizen blocked Naruto's frontal assault and dodged Rangiku's ash attack from above, but Neliel's lance caught him in the side, drawing first blood. Aizen's expression flickered with surprise as he leaped back. Interesting. You've modified Kyoka Suigetsu's abilities. Made it better, Naruto countered, pressing the attack. The battle intensified, tearing across the valley. Each combatant unleashed their full power, Naruto drawing on both the Hogyoku and Kurama, his body glowing with golden blue light, Rangiku manipulating her ash with lethal precision, Neliel charging with earth-shaking force. Yet Aizen countered every strategy, adapting instantly to their tactics. Despite the wound in his side, he fought with increasing ferocity. You're strong together, he acknowledged during a momentary lull. But time is on my side. As if to emphasize his point, another dimensional tear ripped open nearby. Through it poured hollows, dozens, then hundreds. Not just ordinary hollows, but Minos Grande and Arankar. Keep him busy. Naruto called to the women. I'll handle these. He created hundreds of shadow clones, each drawing on a portion of his power. They engaged the hollow horde while Rangiku and Neliel continued pressing Aizen. The valley became a chaotic battlefield, spiritual pressure and chakra colliding in explosive waves. Naruto's clones fought valiantly, but the hollow numbers seemed endless. For every one they destroyed, 3 more emerged from the expanding tiers. This isn't working, Neliel communicated through their mental link. The tiers are growing faster than we can contain them. He's stalling, Rangiku realized. Waiting for the merger to reach a point of no return. Naruto dispatched another Minos before responding. Then we change tactics. I need to get to the nexus point directly. He flash-stepped back to the central battle, arriving just as Aizen sent Neliel crashing into one of the statues with a powerful blow. Rangiku was bleeding from multiple wounds but still fighting ferociously. Enough! Naruto shouted, channeling massive amounts of power through Kyoka Suigetsu. The sword glowed brilliantly as he slashed downward, releasing a wave of energy that temporarily pushed Aizen back. Impressive, Aizen admitted, though his smile never wavered. But futile. Look around you, Naruto. Our worlds are already merging. He was right. Throughout the valley, reality itself seemed to be breaking down. Sections of ground transformed into the white sand of Hueco Mundo. Patches of sky darkened to the eternal night of the hollow world. Buildings from Soul Society materialized and dissolved like ghosts. The dimensional collapse has begun, Aizen explained almost conversationally. Soon, only the Nexus will remain stable, a seed from which I will grow a new reality. And everyone else just dies? Naruto demanded, helping Neliel to her feet while keeping his blade pointed at Aizen. Those worthy will survive. Within me, Aizen touched his chest, where his own version of the Hogyoku pulsed. Including you three, of course. Your power is too valuable to waste. Hard pass, Naruto growled. Aizen sighed, as if disappointed by a child's stubbornness. You still don't understand your role in all this. The Hogyoku chose you for a reason, Naruto Uzumaki. Yeah, because I'm nothing like you, Naruto shot back. On the contrary, Aizen's smile turned knowing. We're more alike than you realize. Both seeking to transcend limitations. Both willing to risk everything for our vision. My vision doesn't include sacrificing innocent people. Doesn't it? Aizen raised an eyebrow. How many died in your ninja wars? How many were sacrificed for peace? Naruto faltered momentarily, but Rangiku stepped forward. Don't listen to him, she said firmly. He's trying to get in your head. The difference, Neliel added, is that Naruto fights alongside others, not above them. Aizen's expression hardened. Enough philosophical debate. The final phase is upon us. He raised both arms, and the vortex behind him expanded dramatically. The ground shook as reality itself seemed to warp further. Massive chunks of the valley began to float upward, defying gravity. Now, Naruto Uzumaki, Aizen called over the roar of collapsing dimensions, fulfill your destiny. Join with me, and together we'll shape what comes after. I've got a better idea, Naruto replied, sheathing Kyoka Suigetsu. Kurama, you ready for this? Been ready since we got here, Kit, the fox growled. Let's show this arrogant bastard what real power looks like. Naruto closed his eyes, focusing inward. The Hogyoku pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat as he initiated the complete synchronization they'd been practicing. Power erupted from him in waves, golden chakra merging with blue spiritual pressure. His appearance transformed, the modified Shinigami robes taking on aspects of his six-paths sage mode, while a partial hollow mask formed on the right side of his face. 9 chakra tails manifested behind him, but now they were infused with spiritual energy, glowing with inner light. What is this? For the first time, Aizen's composure cracked, surprise evident in his voice. Something new, Naruto answered, his voice resonating with triple harmonics. Something neither of us expected. He moved with blinding speed, appearing before Aizen instantly. His palm struck Aizen's chest, directly over the Hogyoku embedded there. What are you? Aizen began, but cut off as energy surged between them. Naruto's Hogyoku called to its twin, resonating at a frequency that made both pulse violently. But instead of merging with Aizen as the former Shinigami had planned, Naruto's Hogyoku began pulling, extracting energy from its counterpart. No. Aizen struggled, but Naruto held firm. You wanted a merger. Naruto gritted through clenched teeth. You've got one. The connection between them intensified, spiritual pressure whipping around them like a hurricane. Aizen's body began to deteriorate faster, portions dissolving into particles that flowed into Naruto. This isn't possible, Aizen gasped. The Hogyoku obeys only me. Not anymore, Naruto countered. It chose me, remember? And now it's choosing again. Rangiku and Neliel watched in awe as Naruto literally absorbed Aizen's power and consciousness. The vortex behind them fluctuated wildly, dimensional tiers expanding and contracting throughout the valley. What's happening? Rangiku called over the maelstrom. He's taking control of the nexus point. Neliel realized. Using Aizen's own plan against him. Inside Naruto's mindscape, a battle raged. Aizen's consciousness fought to maintain independence as it was drawn into the shared space where Naruto and Kurama coexisted. You fool, Aizen's mental voice echoed. You cannot contain me. My will is absolute. Not here, it isn't, Kurama growled, manifesting as a massive fox within the mindscape. This is our domain. And we've had practice dealing with unwanted guests, Naruto added, his mental projection standing firm beside Kurama. The Hogyoku appeared between them, not as the orb Naruto had found, but as a being of pure light, neither human nor hollow nor Shinigami. The true form of the Hogyoku, Aizen's voice held awe despite his struggle. You've awakened it fully. The light being regarded them all silently, then extended tendrils toward each consciousness present, Naruto, Kurama, and Aizen. Understanding flowed between them. Naruto saw Aizen's past, his disillusionment with Soul Society, his genuine belief that he was creating a better world. Aizen, in turn, witnessed Naruto's journey, his pain and perseverance, his unwavering commitment to protecting others. You could have been like me, Aizen's mental voice softened. With similar power and similar pain. What made you choose a different path? Images flowed through the connection, Irika acknowledging Naruto, Team 7 forming bonds, friends fighting alongside him, Jiraiya's guidance, countless moments of connection that had shaped him. I was never alone, Naruto answered simply. Not really. Even when everyone hated me, someone believed in me. Aizen's consciousness seemed to dim. I see. Perhaps that was my failure. The Hogyoku's light intensified, enveloping them all. When it receded, Aizen's independent consciousness had dissolved, integrated into the Hogyoku itself, not destroyed, but transformed. In the physical world, the transfer completed with a final surge of energy that knocked Rangiku and Neliel backward. When they looked up, Aizen's body had completely disappeared. Naruto stood alone at the center of the vortex, power radiating from him in pulsing waves. Naruto. Rangiku called uncertainly. His eyes opened, revealing an otherworldly glow that gradually faded to his natural blue. I'm here, he assured them, his voice returning to normal. It worked. Aizen? Neliel asked, approaching cautiously. Gone, or rather, changed. Naruto touched his chest where both Hogyoku now resided. His consciousness is part of the Hogyoku now. Not controlling it, but not destroyed either. And the dimensional collapse? Rangiku looked around at the still warping reality of the valley. That's the tricky part, Naruto admitted. It's too far gone to simply reverse. But I can redirect it. He turned toward the central vortex, extending his arms. The 9 chakra spiritual tails behind him spread outward like a fan. What are you doing? Neliel asked, concern evident in her voice. What Aizen couldn't, Naruto explained, power building around him. Creating stability instead of destruction. The vortex responded to his will, its chaotic energy gradually calming. The floating chunks of earth slowly descended, settling back into place. The dimensional tiers began to shrink, not closing completely, but stabilizing into controlled portals. He's creating permanent pathways between the worlds, Rangiku realized with awe. Instead of merging them destructively. He's connecting them safely, Neliel finished. The process took hours, Naruto working with meticulous care to balance the energies of each dimension. Rangiku and Neliel stood guard, dealing with the occasional hollow still emerging from the shrinking tiers. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the transformed valley, Naruto finally lowered his arms. The vortex had condensed into a stable column of light reaching skyward, while 7 smaller portals arranged in a circle around it provided controlled access to different dimensions. "It's done," he said wearily, his enhanced form receding. "At least, as done as it can be for now." Rangiku and Neliel moved to his side, supporting him as exhaustion took its toll. "You did it," Rangiku said softly, genuine pride in her voice. "We did it," Naruto corrected. "I couldn't have faced him alone." Neliel studied the portals with professional interest. "These connections are stable. Permanent, even. You've created something unprecedented." "A bridge between worlds," Naruto nodded. "Better than a merger or a collapse. This way, each world maintains its integrity, but communication and travel become possible." "The dimensional nexus," Rangiku named it. "A fitting legacy." Naruto smiled tiredly. "Let's go home. Kakashi and the others will want to know what happened." As they turned to leave, Naruto paused, looking back at the transformed valley. Where once 2 statues had stood representing the founders of Konoha, now 7 stone pillars encircled the central light column, each carved with symbols representing the connected dimensions. It felt right somehow, the Valley of the End becoming a beginning instead. News of the battle and its outcome spread quickly. Teams of shinobi secured the Valley of the End, now commonly called the Nexus, while researchers from Konoha's intelligence division worked alongside Rangiku and Neliel to understand the new dimensional pathways. 3 weeks after the confrontation with Aizen, Naruto stood in Kakashi's office, delivering his latest report. "The portals are completely stable," he explained. "We've established preliminary communication with Soul Society and mapped safe routes through 3 of the other dimensions." Kakashi nodded, studying the documents before him. "And the hollows?" "Still appearing occasionally, but nothing like before. With controlled access points, we can actually establish proper defenses." "And Aizen?" Kakashi asked carefully. Naruto touched his chest reflexively. The dual Hogyoku had merged into a single entity that now resided permanently alongside Kurama's seal. "Quiet. I sense his consciousness sometimes, but it's been integrated into the Hogyoku itself. He's more like an archive of knowledge now than an active threat." "And you're sure you can control this power?" "As sure as I can be about anything this massive," Naruto admitted honestly. "But I'm not alone in this. Kurama helps maintain balance internally, and Rangiku and Neliel understand these powers better than anyone." Kakashi's eye crinkled in what Naruto recognized as a smile beneath his mask. "Speaking of whom, how are our interdimensional ambassadors adjusting?" Naruto couldn't help the grin that spread across his face. "Ranjiku's teaching a class on hollow identification to the ANBU. They're terrified of her, but in a good way. And Neliel's been working with the hospital on combining healing Kido with medical ninjutsu. And personally?" Kakashi pressed, amusement evident in his voice. "That's progressing too," Naruto replied, feeling heat rise to his cheeks. "I imagine it would be," Kakashi chuckled. "Not many men find themselves in a relationship with 2 powerful women from different dimensions." "It's complicated," Naruto admitted. "But good complicated, you know." "I'm happy for you," Kakashi said sincerely. "After everything you've sacrificed for the village, for 2 worlds now, you deserve some happiness." Before Naruto could respond, an ANBU appeared in the doorway. "Lord Hokage, representatives from Soul Society have arrived through the Nexus. They're requesting an official meeting." Kakashi sighed, rising from his desk. "Duty calls. Care to join me, Naruto? You're better equipped to explain the technical aspects of the dimensional bridges." "Actually," Naruto rubbed the back of his neck sheepishly, "I promised Rangiku and Neliel I'd meet them at Ichiraku's. We're celebrating Neliel maintaining her adult form permanently." "Of course," Kakashi waved him off. "Far be it from me to interfere with romance. I'll handle the diplomats." Naruto grinned gratefully. "Thanks, Kakashi-sensei." I owe you one. You've saved the world multiple times, Kakashi reminded him dryly. I think you've earned a night off. Ichiraku Ramen had expanded significantly since the war, now boasting a proper restaurant instead of just a stand. Naruto found Rangiku and Neliel already seated at his usual table, both women drawing appreciative glances from other patrons. Sorry I'm late, he said, sliding onto the bench beside them. Report to Kakashi ran long. We ordered for you, Rangiku informed him, pushing a large bowl of miso ramen his way. Extra pork, as requested. You're the best, Naruto declared fervently, breaking apart his chopsticks. Neliel smiled, her long green hair tied back casually. Since stabilizing her adult form, she developed a style that blended practicality with elements from both Hueco Mundo and Konoha, fitted pants similar to shinobi wear but with a modified white jacket that acknowledged her Arrancar heritage. Rangiku, meanwhile, had adapted her Shinigami uniform to incorporate more practical elements for the shinobi world, though she steadfastly refused to give up her pink scarf. How's the research going? Naruto asked between bites. Fascinating, Neliel's eyes lit up. The dimensional barriers have completely restabilized around the permanent portals. It's like the worlds recognized the new configuration and adapted to it. Soul Society's leadership is still in shock, Rangiku added, sipping sake. The old man nearly had a heart attack when he heard that Aizen had been neutralized and dimensional travel established all in one go. They're coming to terms with it, though, Neliel noted. The potential for knowledge exchange alone is revolutionary. Naruto nodded, enjoying their enthusiasm. These moments, normal conversation over good food with people he cared about, felt precious after the chaos they'd endured. And the Hogyoku? Rangiku asked more quietly. Any changes? Naruto paused mid-bite. It's settling. Integrating more completely with my chakra network and Kurama's seal. The power's still there, but it feels more natural now, less alien. And Aizen's consciousness? Neliel pressed gently. Like I told Kakashi, quiet. Sometimes I get flashes of his memories or knowledge, but it's not like he's talking to me anymore. Naruto shrugged. Honestly, I think he's accepted his new role. As part of something greater than himself, Rangiku mused. Ironic, given his god complex. They continued eating, conversation shifting to lighter topics. Kiba's horrified reaction to learning hollows could be invisible to most people, Sakura's fascination with healing Kido, the ongoing betting pool about which dimension Sasuke would visit first on his explorations. After dinner, they walked through Konoha streets, now illuminated by lanterns as evening settled in. The village had largely recovered from the Arrancar invasion, though some buildings still showed signs of repair work. They ended up at Naruto's apartment, which had become their unofficial shared space over the past weeks. None of them had formally discussed living arrangements, but both women had gradually accumulated belongings there, and Naruto found he loved coming home to their presence. As they settled onto his couch, recently upgraded to accommodate 3 people comfortably, a comfortable silence fell. Rangiku leaned against Naruto's right shoulder, while Neliel curled against his left. We should talk. About it, Neliel said eventually, her voice soft but determined. About? Naruto asked, though he suspected what she meant. The future, Rangiku clarified. Our future, specifically. Naruto took a deep breath. I know things have been crazy, with the dimensional crisis and everything. We haven't really had time to define this. He gestured to encompass the 3 of them. Do you want to define it? Neliel asked, lifting her head to meet his eyes. Naruto hesitated, then decided on complete honesty. I love having you both in my life. These past weeks, even with all the danger and craziness, have been incredible because you were here. I don't want to lose that. Rangiku smiled. Good, because Soul Society just offered me a permanent ambassador position here in Konoha. I accepted. Naruto's eyes widened. Really? That's great. And Hueco Mundo has no formal leadership anymore, Neliel added. But someone needs to represent their interests in this new dimensional alliance. I volunteered. So you're both staying? Naruto could hardly believe his luck. If you'll have us, Rangiku replied, a hint of vulnerability breaking through her usual confidence. Are you kidding? This is amazing. Naruto pulled them both closer. I was worried you'd have to go back, that we'd be trying to maintain something across dimensions. We had the same concern, Neliel admitted. But it seems the universe had other plans. Or multiple universes, Rangiku quipped. They laughed together, relief and happiness mingling. The conversation continued late into the night, making plans, sharing hopes, imagining a future none of them had anticipated but all now embraced wholeheartedly. 6 months passed, bringing significant changes to both Konoha and the wider multiverse. The dimensional nexus had become a center of commerce, research, and diplomatic exchange. Representatives from all connected worlds maintained permanent embassies in Konoha, while shinobi explorers ventured cautiously into the new dimensions. Naruto, as the architect and guardian of the Nexus, divided his time between maintaining the dimensional bridges, training with his unique powers, and fulfilling regular shinobi duties. The Hogyoku had fully integrated with him, its abilities now as natural to access as his chakra. Kyoka Suigetsu, too, had evolved, its hypnotic abilities refined into what Naruto called perception shift, allowing him to see through deceptions, create mental communication networks, and occasionally, when necessary, create targeted illusions for strategic purposes. His relationship with Rangiku and Neliel had deepened as well. What began as shared purpose during crisis had blossomed into genuine love, respect, and partnership. Their unusual three-person relationship raised eyebrows initially, but Konoha had seen stranger things, and Naruto's happiness was difficult to criticize. On a crisp autumn morning, Naruto stood at the Nexus, performing his weekly maintenance check on the dimensional portals. The valley had been transformed into a controlled access facility, with research stations, guard posts, and visitor orientation areas. Rangiku approached, carrying a clipboard. Portal 3 is showing fluctuations again, she reported. Nothing serious, but the research team wants your input. Naruto nodded. That's the one connected to the Dangai, right? It's always been the trickiest. The passage between dimensions was never designed for stability, she agreed. Unlike the others. He moved to the portal in question, a shimmering oval of energy that occasionally flickered. Placing his palm against it, he channeled a small amount of the Hogyoku's power, adjusting its frequency. There, he said after a moment. That should hold it for another month or so. We might need to recalibrate all of them soon, though. I'll schedule it, Rangiku made a note. Oh, and Neliel called from Hueco Mundo. The Hollow Rehabilitation Program is showing promising results. 32 successfully purified so far. Naruto smiled proudly. The program had been Neliel's idea, using combined Shinigami Kido and Shinobi sealing techniques to purify hollows without destroying them, allowing the souls within to move on naturally. She's still coming back tonight, he asked. Wouldn't miss it, Rangiku assured him. It's not every day the hero of the dimensional crisis gets offered the Hokage position. Naruto groaned. Kakashi hasn't officially announced anything yet. Please, Rangiku rolled her eyes. Everyone knows it's happening. The formal ceremony is just a formality. I haven't even accepted, he pointed out. But you will, she stated confidently. It's what you've always wanted. Naruto's expression turned thoughtful. Yeah, but that was before everything. Before the Hogyoku, before the Nexus. Before you and Neliel. Ranjiku's features softened. You think we'd stand in the way of your dream? No, not stand in the way, he clarified. But being Hokage is a huge responsibility. So is maintaining the Nexus. So is. He gestured between them, us. I just want to make sure I can do it all justice. When have you ever failed at something you set your mind to? She challenged gently. Besides, you'll have help. That's what partners are for. Naruto's smile returned. You're right. As usual. I know, she said smugly. Now finish up here. We need to get back to the village for your surprise nomination. They completed the portal maintenance together, working with the easy synchronicity that had developed between them. As they prepared to leave, Naruto paused, looking back at the Nexus, the massive column of light surrounded by 7 stable portals, connecting worlds that once existed in isolation. Pretty amazing, isn't it? He said quietly. A year ago, none of this existed. You were in Soul Society, Neliel was in Hueco Mundo, and I'd never heard of Shinigami or Hollows or the Hogyoku. The universe works in mysterious ways, Rangiku replied, slipping her hand into his. Or should I say, universes. I keep thinking about what Aizen said at the end, Naruto admitted. About how things could have been different if he hadn't been alone. He made his choices, Rangiku said firmly. Just as you made yours. Still, I can't help but wonder if he's found some peace now, as part of the Hogyoku. If anyone could give him that, it's you, she said with conviction. Your capacity for forgiveness has always been your greatest strength. They began the journey back to Konoha, taking the scenic route rather than flash-stepping. The forest was peaceful, birds singing in the canopy above. We should plan a vacation, Naruto suggested suddenly. Once the Hokage transition is complete. The three of us could explore one of the other dimensions properly. Not for work, just for fun. I like that idea, Rangiku agreed. Neliel's been wanting to show us some places in Hueco Mundo that aren't just endless desert. And there's a hot spring resort in Soul Society that's supposed to be amazing, Naruto added. Rukia mentioned it when she visited last month. They continued planning their getaway as they walked, the simple joy of making future plans together feeling like a miracle after the chaos that had brought them together. The Hokage nomination ceremony was exactly as predicted, formal, slightly tedious, but ultimately meaningful. Kakashi officially named Naruto as his successor, to begin transition training immediately. The celebration afterward filled Konoha streets, citizens and visitors from multiple dimensions mingling freely. Music played, food stalls did brisk business, and impromptu demonstrations of various powers entertained crowds of children. Naruto eventually escaped the main festivities, finding Neliel waiting on the Hokage monument as planned. She wore formal attire for the occasion, a dress that blended Arankar white with Konoha green. Congratulations, Hokage-to-be, she greeted him with a warm smile. Thanks, he replied, sitting beside her. Sorry I'm late. Couldn't escape the admirers. Ranjiku's still keeping them distracted, Neliel chuckled. She's surprisingly good at creating diversions. One of her many talents, Naruto agreed fondly. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the celebration below. From this height, the village looked like a sea of lanterns, warm and inviting. Having second thoughts? Neliel asked perceptively. Not second thoughts, Naruto clarified. Just, reflecting. On how we got here. A random dimensional tear, a corrupted artifact, and an enemy's centuries-old plan, she summarized. Not the most conventional beginning. But a pretty amazing result, he added, taking her hand. Indeed. She leaned against him. Rangiku mentioned your vacation idea. I approve wholeheartedly. I figured you might. Naruto grinned. Any preferences on destination? Somewhere new to all of us, she suggested. One of the dimensions we haven't explored much yet. An adventure we can share equally. I like that idea, he agreed. New experiences together. Rangiku found them there a while later, bringing sake and snacks liberated from the celebration. The three of them toasted Naruto's nomination, the Nexus's 6-month anniversary, and their shared future. As night deepened around them, Naruto felt the Hogyoku pulse gently within him, not with warning or power, but with something like contentment. Kurama, too, seemed at peace, his massive presence relaxed in their shared mindscape. "You did well, Kit," the fox commented privately. "From village outcast to bridge between worlds. Not bad." "We did well," Naruto corrected. "I never would have made it alone." That, he realized, was the fundamental difference between his path and Aizen's. Where the former Shinigami had isolated himself in his quest for power, Naruto had always found strength in connection, whether with Kurama, his fellow shinobi, or the two extraordinary women now sharing his life. Worlds apart, hearts together. The phrase came to him suddenly, feeling right. "What are you smiling about?" Rangiku asked, noticing his expression. "Just thinking that for all the crazy paths that brought us here," Naruto replied, looking between them, "I wouldn't change a thing." Neliel raised her cup. "To unexpected journeys. And the companions who make them worthwhile," Rangiku added. "To worlds apart," Naruto finished, "and hearts together." They drank to that, three beings from different dimensions who had found something precious in each other, something that transcended worlds and defied explanation. Something worth protecting, worth fighting for. Something like home. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.